welcoming all our viewers from here at home and abroad to International Affairs, the flagship program that discusses and analyzes the world affairs as well as breaking stories from around the globe. Before we jump into our discussion today, let me introduce my panel. Here in the studio, I have Major Retired Nasir Uddin Ahmed, who is of course a military veteran, has served in the Bangladesh Army and is a renowned analyst and a columnist. I welcome you on to the program. It's good to see you after a while. Alongside, I will have our geopolitical correspondent, Norman Floyd Barnes from Washington, District of Columbia, to begin our discussion. I want to begin with Norman. I want to have a focus regarding the Russia-Ukraine war. At least 600 drones and almost 90 missiles has been hurled from Russia towards Kiev. Of course, it has carried out a series of missile and drone attacks against Ukraine military targets as well. I want to begin with Norman Floyd Barnes. 4.5 years of war, and these two neighbors are still at it. Of course, there was a ceasefire that was held earlier this month regarding the Victory Day in Russia. However, they are back at the offensive as we see it happening. I want to get an initial reaction. The Russians have used the Oreshnik hypersonic ballistic missile launching facility, and it is also capable of delivering a nuclear warhead. This is the third time in the 4-year war that Russia has used this missile. I want to get a reaction out of you. How are you seeing this as the two neighboring countries are at it once more? Norman.
Washington, D.C., today is a holiday. It's Memorial Day here in the United States. This is a period of time when the United States citizens reflect on the fallen military service members through the wars. It was a little history on it. It's dated back to 1865 when a group of black church groups took to the fields of Charleston, South Carolina, where they resumed a mass grave of Union soldiers from a prison there, 267 exactly soldiers, and they took in and they buried each individual soldier in a grave. And this ceremony, this process went on with parades and other things that went on. But through the period of time, we acknowledge that at 3 p.m. on this day, we, the United States citizens, are asked to take a moment of silence to remember the fallen service members through the years that have sacrificed their life, their future, and their legacy for the peace of America. So with that said, we are now dealing with the issue with the ceasefire, and hopefully the war is on the war issues are on the table with the president, and regarding how this conflict in the Middle East is going to end, while we are now looking at a rehashing of Russia and Ukraine. So now the situation, as we see, as things seem to calm down and simmer, it started to muster more momentum. So now we're seeing Russia's now going on a more aggressive offensive using technology, using more sophisticated and advanced weaponry to achieve its goals. So this endless war continues. It continues. And the same thing goes on with Gaza, Israel. We are seeing advance and more attacks go on while this peace conversation is going on. The markets are now appear to be positive that there's a potential, but we still have the conflicts. We still have these attacks. We still have people dying. So on this Memorial Day here in the United States, we like to reflect on peace and the future.
Right. Thanking Norman Floyd Barnes. Excellent opening regarding the Russia-Ukraine war. And also we remember Memorial Day, of course, at 3 p.m. local time in the U.S. Americans are encouraged to pause for a minute of silence to honor the fallen, as Norman has indicated. And as we're seeing some of this exclusive footage of the Oreshnik missile landing in multiple locations across Kiev, According to the news articles online, we see that almost more than 50 locations inside Ukraine have been targeted in this recent attack. I want to ask Dr. Nasir in the studio, how do you see this as 4.5 years of war could not stop these two counterparts? We've seen the Iran war progressing on for a short amount of time, for 85 days. But it has had a very impactful effect on the global economy. If you look at the two nations, US and Iran, and of course there is Israel. But I want to talk about Russia and Ukraine. They have not stopped fighting. Ukraine, as you've seen, every now and then Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, is seeking to its allied nations in Europe to get some support to fight this war. On the other side, Vladimir Putin recently visited Xi Jinping in China. And immediately afterwards, we see 600 strong drone attack with 90 missiles being launched. It is to almost poke the bear in kind of a move. I want to get a remark regarding the Russia-Ukraine war in the recent days and as you are observing as well.
Thank you, Mantha, and warm greetings to my co-panelists and dear viewers. You rightly pointed out that it's almost 4.5 years we are observing with pain in our heart that these two nations or two neighbors are fighting. And previously it was also told by the various analysts that since the World War II, this is the biggest war they are observing in Europe. And if you talk about the casualties, yes, for human being or the casualty in terms of human lives, there could be a limitation, but economic impact of this war was huge. Immediately after the corona, which shook the whole world economy and the supply chain, people were thinking of taking a breath and start fresh. And just at that moment, this particular war in February 2022 has just vanished the process of rebuilding the economy. And this war again in Iran, another February and 2026, 4 years later. But after that, you see for last 6 months or so, almost like it is February, March, April and May, continuously we are seeing fighting between the nations in two different sectors, but the whole world is paying for that. In Europe, Ukraine and Russia both plays a very vital role, especially in terms of providing the food and energy to the European community as well as food supply to rest of the world from Ukraine. And particularly from Iran, the energy is the main thing which is keeping the world moving. 20% of the energy we know comes through the Hormuz, Strait of the Hormuz.
Right.
And since this war is continuing together for last 3 months, really it's a very burden for the world economy. And again, technology has advanced. You see, you have rightly pointed out there are 600 plus drones and 90 missiles were launched by the Russian side. And Ukraine is claiming that they could detect or they could manage to neutralize or jam almost 500 plus drones, and 9 of the missiles were misleading. They could not hit the target. What might be the fact and figure? The world had to pay for it in terms of money. That military armaments, that could be this particular expense could be for the human resource development, could be well-being of the people. If we talk about the Russian health sector or the Ukraine casualties, the way the hospitals are running now is really very, very shabby condition. Same is happening in Gaza, same is happening in Lebanon, same is happening in Iran. The media could not cover everything because everywhere, whenever there is a war, there is a censorship, inbuilt policy of the world since World War I. And this is how we are paying for this. Now time has come that we must say stop, must say no to it. Good thing is that America could realize it after recent visit of Donald Trump in China that the world is not in favor of war. especially the China's policy. You see, Russia is in war, America is in war, but China is slowly developing its economy. It's not directly getting involved in the war, but developing its military strength. This is one. Another one is that America, being a country which there is a debate that whether it is 16 years or 23 years since their independence, we are out of the war. Right. Other than this, since that 17th century, they are since their independence, they are continuously fighting the war. Years after year, they are somewhere their soldiers are deployed, they are fighting. So now Americans are also realizing that there should be an end to it. And recent development in terms of no dust, no dollar policy of Donald Trump, that okay, Iran has asked for the seized assets of Iran to get back, to return to the Iranian territory. America has agreed to it. In terms, dust means the nuclear dust. That should not be there in Iran. So if there is a dust, they are not going to return the dollars. So no dust, no dollar policy. Iran is also not disagreeing. They are telling that okay, for peaceful process we'll get, but they are definitely they have gone to it. But in case of Russia and Ukraine, the hope is very bleak, because few days back, Ukraine also launched hundreds of drones and missiles towards Moscow. And in terms, after recent visit of Russia in China, they have gone for the war. But I am optimistic that this war is going to be closed very soon. Putin also said a few days back, just maybe 7 to 10 days back, he said the war is going to end, because whole world is now waiting that what is happening in terms with Taiwan. Is in 2027, question of Taiwan will be very bright in front of the whole world. Iran or Ukraine will not be the main issue then. We'll have to wait for that.
Right. Increasingly interesting updates provided by Dr. Nasir. Very interesting topics that you have given us. I made of some of these issues that I want to further discuss. Of course, technology has advanced. A statement that you have made is very important, and how we must discuss this, because we see today that first-person drones being acquired by Hezbollah in their retaliation strikes against the IDF of Israel. And of course, if you look at history, war is one of those constants that appear over time and over again and again. I want to talk to Norman regarding these themes, and of course, the U.S. position regarding Iran. As of today, the U.S. and Iran are signaling progress in efforts to end the conflict, but the situation remains under negotiation. However, President Donald Trump says a deal is close, but Washington shall not rush into it. There is going to be a framework which would give the negotiators 60 days to iron out long-term agreements, and how far they will be similar to the JCPOA signed in 2015 under the Obama administration. I want to ask Norman, how you see this situation coming to a close with Iran and the U.S. Of course, there has debates regarding the enriched uranium, how Iran is going to dispose of that, and whether they will be disposing of that at all is one of those questions. I want to get a remark regarding this, and how technology has changed the battlefields from the past to the present day. Norman.
Thank you for the question. But you used the word closure. Will be no closure to this situation, meaning over the 6,000 years, over the period, every foreign country, every foreign empire who attempted to come into Iran and to take over has assimilated to the Iranians' culture, meaning what we're going to see, my prediction is that we will make a deal. As the president said, we want a good deal, but the deal would involve keeping Iran intact. Iran will control the flow of the strait. The U.S. will leave or request to decrease their presence in the region, sanctions will be removed, and the economic flow of the world will continue. So what we're looking at is now is not a victory or defeat. We're looking at a transition, a new trend, a new reset in terms of how we coexist. So the issue of defeating Iran is, I'll say, off the table. It's not going to be possible. We need 1 million plus troops to go in there. To what avail? Alexander tried it. The Great tried it. Other groups, the Mongols tried it. Didn't work. And the Trump administration is not willing, do not have the gumption, do not have the will to inflict a total takeover. So even though there may be a situation where we want to control Iran, Iran is not a country or a region. That region is not going to be controlled by the Western world. So the assumption is that in order to move forward, we have to comfortably coexist to a point where everybody benefits from this. Until then, we will have an endless conflict that was not going to end and be to a point where we will have to basically bow down and concede to the point that we cannot defeat this enemy, as we call it. This enemy will have to become our comrade in order for this thing to survive.
Right, and a very excellent take regarding Iran's issue as of a modern day. And in the past, we've seen multiple conquering parties tried against Iran, and they have all failed. So once again, ending before I can go on to a break, to remind everyone else, in the end of February this year, an irreparable damage has been done to Iran. Their supreme leader was assassinated courtesy of Israel and the US, and the premises of this war had begun ever since then. How to fix this irreparable damage is the concern. How the Iranian frozen assets will become unfrozen, and what to do with the nuclear material that has been so heavily enriched. This remains the questions that everyone around the world is still asking. With that being said, it's time to take a commercial break. Hello and welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Panto.
I don't see an easy resolution to this because every slight deviation from the plan,
opening an open war conflict with them,
testing nuclear missiles,
Russia's announcement of these supposedly successful testing,
special and exclusive footage that is being played on SATV screen,
Really coming to terms with Hamas.
Damage estimated between this entire issue.
President Trump is expected to hold bilateral talks,
preserving biodiversity and tackling climate change.
We cannot protect the planet before we negotiate peace.
Where is it going? Is it understanding the needs of its people before the needs of this global world?
For China to come to agreement,
They will face better projects.
with President Xi of China and President Lee of South Korea.
Trump's White House that is in favor of these things.
simply not enough action being taken to address the problem of fossil fuels.
What their plan initially is towards the Caribbean, a place that has been met with two types of disasters.
Bangladeshi students at the same level of opportunity internationally and domestically.
International Affairs. Watch every Sunday to Thursday at 2 p.m. only on SATV and SATV Digital. Hello and welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Panto.
I don't see an easy resolution to this because every slight deviation from the plan,
opening an open war conflict with them,
testing nuclear missiles,
Russia's announcement of these supposedly successful testing,
special and exclusive footage that is being played on SATV screen,
really coming to terms with Hamas.
Damage estimated between this entire issue.
President Trump is expected to hold bilateral talks.
Preserving biodiversity and tackling climate change.
We cannot protect the planet before we negotiate peace.
Where is it going? Is it understanding the needs of its people before the needs of this global world?
For China to come to agreement,
They will face better projects.
With President Xi of China and President Lee of South Korea.
Trump's White House that is in favor of these things.
Simply not enough action being taken to address the problem of fossil fuels.
What their plan initially is towards the Caribbean, a place that has been met with two types of disasters.
Bangladeshi students at the same level of opportunity internationally and domestically.
International Affairs. Watch every Sunday to Thursday at 2 p.m. only on SATV and SATV Digital. Hello and welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Alam Panta.
I don't see an easy resolution to this because every slight deviation from the plan,
Opening an open war conflict with them.
Testing.
Welcoming back our viewers to International Affairs. Today I'm joined in the studio with Dr. Nasser as well as Norman Floyd Barnes from Washington, District of Columbia. We were talking about the Iran war and how the Russia-Ukraine war is shaping the geopolitical arena of today. However, I want to focus on a theme I took out from one of the statements made by Dr. Nasser. China does not see itself becoming the attacking or offensive force in any kind of conflict from around the world. However, as per the news suggests that China has delivered or is going to deliver 15,000 ton rice shipment to Cuba amid this economic pressure, and of course it marks the beginning of a broader 60,000 ton food assistance package that China has scheduled out for the island nation of Cuba. Two different continents separated by multiple oceans, and however the US side has imposed immense action towards Cuba in the recent days. I want to ask this question in the studio first with Dr. Nasser. Cuba, a nation, heavily communist nation, being helped out by the heaviest communist nation, Russia, China as well. China is providing the food security element, while Russia a couple of weeks ago has provided a ship laden with crude for the nation to survive. Now, Russia and China are seemingly helping Cuba with their daily day-to-day operations. I want to get a notion. In the beginning of the year, we've seen Venezuela, and then we have seen the administration targeting Greenland. Then, of course, Iran came about, and Cuba was left to be ignored. However, today we see Raul Castro's indictment, a 94-year-old politician serving in their nation, being indicted by the US. And, of course, Cuba, an island nation facing severe energy crisis. Today, we see that when sun sets in the shores of Havana, that there is no light to be seen anywhere, and the tourism and other markets have definitely been affected. Want your comments on how you see this? Will Cuba be the next turnstone or cornerstone?
That is not unlikely, because historically we observed that when the America was strongly trying to portray that capitalism is not a idealistic or it's a good idea for a country to be administered. Right at that time, Cuba, close to the USA, had been very successful as a nation under the Fidel Castro, the legendary leader of the Cuba. And as you said, the tourism and the Havana cigar and their treatment facilities. You know, world leaders like Yasser Arafat and many of the legendary figures like Diego Maradona, they all had their successful surgery and other treatments in Cuba. So it was a legend in the entire Europe and America that Cuba, being a capitalist country, a communist country, could make a success in their respective field, and they had been giving threat to the even USA's policies at many times.
Right.
And there had been lot of operations to kill Cuban the legendary figure Fidel Castro, and
Che Guevara as well.
Yes, and I wrote an article. There had been 38 attempts to kill him in different occasions, but it was not successful. And after that, recently we have seen, once the uranium and the rare earth became the focal point of discussion in the world politics, then Cuba again came under threat of the USA. And you rightly pointed out, there had been energy crisis in Cuba, not only in terms of energy, their water supply, their food supply, everything was challenged because of the US sanctions and embargo on their port and on their other facilities which used to bring foods from outside, energy from outside to keep them rolling. Right at this moment, China has taken a very smart decision, I should say. They now realize that again, right in front of the USA, if Cuba can stand again with its power, with its energy, with its the lost glory which was thrown challenge under the leadership of Fidel Castro, definitely this will be another blow to the USA. That's why this food supply will be definitely a very positive impact, right, not only in Cuba, in the entire region around the Cuba, number one. Number two, this will encourage other Latin American countries and the other countries around Cuba to stand against the USA, because they will now get confidence that what maybe that is, China is there to help us out. This is another issue. Number three is that Cuba is probably diverting the American attention towards other sector also, because again, as I said in my first phase of talking, that their target is in 2027 towards Taiwan. So
yes,
right before that, the attention of America will be diverted in different direction. Cuba is one of the diversionary attention or move intended by the China right at this moment. That's what I believe.
No, excellent remarks regarding Cuba, and of course it opens up the Pandora's box to a certain regard. As Dr. Nasser pointed out, if China and Russia are helping Cuba, then of course the US may choose to help Taiwan, the island nation that seems itself in the crosshairs of mainland China. I want to ask this very question to Norman Floyd Barnes. Just your remark, proxy wars and proxy wars, as we see across continents, across great oceans, and how it's going to stand the economic collapse and really societal collapse. Societies around the world are being affected by countless wars, needless wars. Your remarks on this regard, especially regarding Taiwan. Recently, Donald Trump, after his visit in Beijing, has said for Taiwan not to declare its independence. Of course, this shows only that the future holds more confrontation than coming back to the table. Norman, how do you see this impending issue?
Yes, the only confrontation is where the money goes. Who controls the flow, the economic flow of the world? President Trump and his administration and his contingent of business leaders met in China, and they put together a deal. The deal involved economic development, economic growth, with the exception of Taiwan. Taiwan is off the table, said by China. So as we move forward, if the United States and the contention want to continue with their endeavors, they will have to leave the issue with Taiwan off the table. As for Russia and China helping Cuba, the situation is basically the United States is now looking at Cuba as a next Venezuela type of situation. And the issue is that now the U.S. is going to have to tie up its resources again, which now is not look very well as we have a midterm coming up. We're spending too much money. That's what people are saying. We're spending too much money on the overseas affairs, and we're not addressing the issues we deal with at home, which is going to be a problem for the administration moving forward. Right now, believe it or not, there's a poll came out that 64% of the United States citizens oppose our overseas war with Iran, and the number is going to be higher with Cuba. 64% do not agree, do not support. And believe it or not, 86% of the people contribute their hardship, the cost of living, the cost of everything going up, contribute to our involvement with these overseas actions, including Iran. So things are not looking very well in terms of for the administration, in terms of its justification for conflicts internationally. Iran is a big. We never had this in history that we had so many citizens opposed to our military actions. Cuba, my prediction: if we go into Cuba, it's going to be worse. Cuba has no benefits, no threats to the United States. It's just another annexation, and this is something that we cannot afford because we are not meeting the basic needs of the normal citizens, and they are reflecting that our overseas involvement is taking away of our quality of life, and the American citizens are not supporting this.
Right. Increasingly important debate regarding Cuba and whether it will be another annexation. But when we talk about annexation, we cannot disregard what the state of Israel has been doing in recent days. We've seen the violent torture and abuse of the Global Freedom Flotilla or Sumut Flotilla activists who have been detained, as well as there are now suspected allegations of rape and, of course, harassment that the IDF and the Israeli administration shares. We've seen Itamar Ben-Gvir, someone, the defense ministry inside Israel, who has been condemned by world leaders. And as of recent, we see Muslim majority nation Malaysia taking preparing steps to take Israel to the ICJ over treatment of these flotilla activists. Once again, I want to ask Norman once more, just regarding this, a very short comment will do. Israel continuously violating the terms of the world, of the free world. And of course, the US-Israel partnership is not helping this situation. They have done and shown the entire planet what they can do with those have been detained in the sea. And of course, it was the international waters in which the IDF had captured them before spoiling their plan of landing in Gaza. Just to ask Norman, is there any nation that would actually tell Israel that they are doing what they're doing is violating international law, and would they be listening to any courts that have a ruling over the entire planet? I want to get a remark regarding Israel and their recent violations. Norman, how do you see it?
Yes, briefly, I must commend Malaysia for what they are initiating. They're planning to take Israel actions to the International Court. I commend them for that effort because it will open up a Pandora's box. I see an avalanche of other countries. Since Malaysia's taken this action, I will see additional countries join and start this process of addressing what Israel is doing, particularly with the flotillas, particularly with the hostile situation with people. So we are now seeing a new start, and it's not going to look very well for Israel moving forward because countries are fed up. Thank you.
Right. And taking from Norman's statements, being fed up is probably the theme for this year when it comes to geopolitics. Leaders, everyone is more or less fed up. That being said, I'm coming back to the studio with Dr. Nasser. The Chief Minister of the Malaysian state of Selangor, Amiruddin Shari, has said that he will initiate proceedings as soon as lawyers complete the collection of information and supporting evidences. 400 international activists aboard the flotilla to deliver aid to Gaza were captured. And in this entire process, they were deported through third countries such as Turkey. But as we see today, Malaysia is planning on taking them to the ICJ, as well as other nations, European nations, condemning the specific minister's actions. Ben-Gvir inside Israel. What is Israel? Is that a country, or is it a land that has been taken over after the British conquering land of Palestine? And today we do not see Palestine as much as we used to 80 years ago. Of course, the future of Israel? Will there be one, as Benjamin Netanyahu's opposition are now gearing up for the upcoming elections? How do you see it?
It's a two dimension, as you have pointed out. Number one is the upcoming election, and it is also related with the midterm election of the US as well.
One is in October in Israel, and one is in November, as far as I.
Just continuation in 2 months. And this is a focal point for this particular whatever is going on. And as you have rightly pointed out, that Israel really has crossed all the limits in terms of their aggression, because this war is continuing with Gaza and Palestine for quite few decades. But this time, the way they have shown their red eyes to the innocent people and the peace-loving people who are going by the flotilla, and they are not fighters. They don't have any gun with them. They're not going to harm anyone. They are trying to show their sympathy, empathy, or their support for the victims in Gaza. So if this is stopped in force of in gunpoint, that means the United Nations, so-called the Arab nations, so-called the YC, whatever the international organization we say, crime against humanity or International Court of Justice, nothing has any value in from the Israeli will. So that is a very, very shocking point. And the ray of hope at the end of the tunnel is that 8 Arab nations, you have, as you have slightly pointed out, they have protested the behavior pattern of the Israeli administration, especially a minister particularly. And as you have also mentioned, that Malaysia has taken up the case, and they are thinking of collecting the evidences and going to International Court of Justice. And really, if it takes place, the symbolic event, that will have some impact definitely. And it is, you see, what is happening now, the American or Israeli stake onto the Iran is getting Middle East out of their hand.
Right.
Middle East leaders are now thinking that now they will have to reshape their own defense. So they are already make the pact with the Pakistan, which was not expected. And Pakistan, we know very well, backed by USA and China both. So now both the superpowers now is active in Middle East, and Pakistan, being the mediator, is taking the upper hand in the entire Middle East activities. None of the Middle East countries could take this particular lead. So this is how the international politics, geopolitics, or the supremacy of the USA, everything is being questioned now. And you must have observed that during the visit of the US President Donald Trump in China, once the question of Taiwan came up, very smartly Chinese President said that if this is the point, we are not going to discuss, or this should not come as a discussion point. And if it comes up, and if the USA get involved with Taiwan issue, it may lose its supremacy or power as the world leader. That is the threat he has directly given. So now the world has to think that things will not go as per the choice of the USA anymore. You see, the US, the points whatever they raise towards the Iran regime change, the destruction, then vanishing the country from the world map, destruction of a civilization, nothing has happened. So whatever they say, that will not happen. That is the striking point of the time.
Of course, interesting statements made by Dr. Nasir regarding Israel, regarding China, as well as the US positions from around the world. Before I go on to a break, I want to also offer some comments from Israel. The Israeli political commentator Ori Goldberg says he believes Trump will prioritize US interests over those of Israel amid reports that Israeli leaders are working to undermine a potential deal between Washington and Tehran, the capital of Iran. So we can definitely see that common Israelis are now saying that definitely US President Donald Trump will put the interest of the Americans first, something that he prioritizes in his Making America Great Again campaign. With that being said, it's time to take another short commercial break.
nuclear missiles.
Russia's announcement of these supposedly successful testing.
Special and exclusive footage that is being played on SATV screen.
Really coming to terms with Hamas.
Damage estimated between this entire issue.
President Trump is expected to hold bilateral talks.
Preserving biodiversity and tackling climate change.
We cannot protect the planet before we negotiate peace.
Where is it going? Is it understanding the needs of its people before the needs of this global world?
For China to come to agreement,
They will face better projects.
With President Xi of China and President Lee of South Korea.
Trump's White House that is in favor of these things.
Simply not enough action being taken to address the problem of fossil fuels.
What their plan initially is towards the Caribbean, a place that has been met with two types of disasters.
Bangladeshi students at the same level of opportunity internationally and domestically.
International Affairs. Watch every Sunday to Thursday at 2 p.m. only on SATV and SATV Digital. Hello and welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Alam Panta.
I don't see an easy resolution to this because every slight deviation from the plan,
Opening an open war conflict with them.
Testing nuclear missiles.
Russia's announcement of these supposedly successful testing.
Special and exclusive footage that is being played on SATV screen.
really coming to terms with Hamas.
Damage estimated between this entire issue.
President Trump is expected to hold bilateral talks.
Preserving biodiversity and tackling climate change.
We cannot protect the planet before we negotiate peace.
Where is it going? Is it understanding the needs of its people before the needs of this global world?
For China to come to agreement,
They will face better projects.
With President Xi of China and President Lee of South Korea.
Trump's White House that is in favor of these things.
simply not enough action.
Welcoming back our viewers to the very last segment of International Affairs. We were in talks regarding almost everyone from around the world. However, we must now look at our region here in Bangladesh. Of course, this government that we are currently in, headed by Prime Minister Tariq Rahman, has been in the house for roughly 100 days without taking any kind of foreign tours in these 100 days. Important update regarding so, and trying to fix the law and order situation, as popularly Tariq Rahman came on television to say that the case, as we've seen from last week, shall be given the murder trial after Eid. I want to focus in the studio with Dr. Nasser. Some of these important talks do include Muslim minorities and how they are going to go in to the Eid al-Azha break that we have this week, scheduled this week. It of course follows the Hajj and the pilgrimage to Mecca, as we see. However, recent West Bengal elections have turned some of the rules regarding sacrificing of livestock. Of course, 20 million or more Muslims reside in that country who will not be able to sacrifice their cattle openly. And because of such, many of the other religious communities have been affected. They are not being able to sell off their cattle, as well as not being able to service their loans, and they're heavily indebted. So I want to get a remark from you, how you see this, as well as, of course, as the 100 days of the government is going on.
Definitely this 100 days of the government has passed with a lot of challenges, and always BNP, whenever it's formed the government, there had been some upset in the, not only in our country, in international arena as well. So what we can say that definitely there had been some smart moves by the government, and especially I must appreciate the wholehearted effort by the Prime Minister himself to curtail the unnecessary expenditure, government expenditure, and his effort to get everybody united for the nation. That is very encouraging. Another encouraging point is very remarkable, that normally we have not experienced in the past that government, whoever formed the government has not visited any other country within first 90 days or 100 days. So this is the first time probably we are seeing a prime minister after taking its office did not visit any of the countries, and he did not declare any schedule. Now there are a lot of whispering that whether he will first visit India, the USA, the UK or the China itself, or there was also remarks that maybe he will be going for the Hajj for the first time. So nothing has happened yet. He is with his people, with his team, with his family in this country. So that is very encouraging. And we must say that his first move is very important, because the whole world is eyeing that first visit means that he is tilted towards that direction. Could be India, could be China, could be, but wherever he goes, the other nations will make a calculation out of it. So it has to be a very smart move, calculating every steps of the world, because we have Russian investment here, or Rupur, this power plant is coming up. China has huge investment here. We have a written agreement with the USA. We cannot come out of it. So altogether, this is a very, very complex situation. A single mistake by the Prime Minister himself regarding selecting the first country to be visited will have to take a very big toll in the entire situation and foreign policy of Bangladesh. This is one. Another one is that our very close neighbor as India in three sides, the West Bengal is our language-wise is very ideal for us to communicate, and also for trade and commerce, because other sides are not that much developed if we compare with the West Bengal. And there had been change of regime there in the local administration. So now we are surrounded by the BJP government almost by the three sides of the country, and recent moves by the newly formed government under Mr. Shubhendu, it's really very alarming for the Muslims. Number one, that he first of all said that he will have thrown away the Muslims towards Bangladesh. He has already handed over lands for erecting the border fence. Border fence, barbed wire, and there had been disputes in Lalmonirhat and other places. It is unnecessary, because you have the protocol how to construct it. You call for a flag meeting.
And recently we've seen a border guard Bangladeshi troop trying to tell them that they have violated this law.
Yes. So these are unnecessarily getting the things excited, and maybe for the political gain. I think that for a neighbor, this is not a very good step, number one. Number two is that for the Muslims, there had been 2 consecutive days to observe the Eid al-Azha. He has curtailed 1 day leave. Now it is only 1 day to celebrate the Eid. You know, this celebration of Eid in the West Bengal was not limited within the Muslims only. There had been a lot of new movies being released. People are purchasing new clothes and they are visiting each other. So there was a harmony, but it has got to stop. But the most powerful blow was onto the Hindu cattle farmers, because they had, this West Bengal, the poverty level is very, very, very low. Very high, because they are dependent on taking loan from the local merchants at a very high rate. They have taken the loan. Now this is the time when they sell their cattle and prior to it and repay the loan, again purchase new cattle for the next year. If this is the way Muslim leaders in West Bengal has given fatwa, their verdict that we are not going to sacrifice any cow this time. Really, if it happens, there will be a huge loss for the cattle farmers, who are mostly the Hindus, number one. Number two, threat for our country also, because these particular farmers, they will try to push this particular cows in throwaway prices towards Bangladeshi smugglers and towards Bangladeshi market. They will try to push it in. So if it happens, our farmers who are involved in cattle farming in our country, they will be the loser.
Of course, very important updates regarding our, of course, administration, as well as how this situation will be unfolding in West Bengal. Thanking Dr. Nasir for your time and valuable opinions and interesting updates regarding geopolitics of international and national importance. Thanking Norman Floyd Barnes as well from joining from Washington, District of Columbia. Before I finish, let me also mark that today is May the 25th, 2026. Today is, of course, Africa Day, marking the 63rd anniversary of the founding of the Organization of African Unity, now known as the African Union. The annual event honors African unity, celebrates the continent's diverse cultures, and serves as a vital platform to reflect on economic empowerment and sovereignty. With that being said, I am signing off on International Affairs. I will see you all on tomorrow's program. Your control.